everyone, welcome to Table for Two. I am the Elusive Bigfoot.
And I'm Onezie.
And we are reviewing our games that start with the letter of the alphabet, and today we are doing B, the letter B. So these games are games that we own or have previously owned, and there is something about this particular game that actually stood out to us for one reason or another, is why it made the list. It's not in any particular order necessarily, but the last one will be our number one game for that letter. These are going to be base games only, not expansions. So we're going to do an expansion list at another time. For right now, these are base games, and we're going to group together similar versions. So like all the Flux, all the Horrify, all the Villainous, they'll be grouped together. Okay. So with that, I think we go ahead and hit B. And why don't you start us off?
All right. I'm going to pick a very tiny game to start with.
Okay.
It's one of the little tiny games that's the size of a pack of gum.
Perplexed
games, and it's called Boo.
That's on my list.
Imagine that. So with Boo, it's a deck of cards. Each card is a quarter of the size of a regular card, maybe.
Maybe.
Cut long ways.
It might be.
And it has ghosts on it, and the ghosts are looking at each other and scaring each other. If you scare a ghost on your turn, you flip the card over. So this is a game we bring out at Halloween. It's very fun, and it starts in the shape of a gate of a graveyard, so that's fun too. And you got to make sure that your ghosts don't get too scared and that you scare the other player's ghosts. And that's a Boo.
Yeah. I really like this game. It is a two-player only game, and each card has got some white and some black. I think there's only one card or maybe two that have all white or all black. And so whenever you scare, like if the other ghost can look in your eyes and they become scared, and you must flip the card over, and it has the opposite ratio of white to black. So if you started out with two white and one black, and you flip it over, you will now have two black and one white. So you always want to look for the placement of your cards. What is the best location for that? When is the best time to flip it over? I just love that game, though. That's Boo.
So what's your choice?
Another one. I have Bob Ross, The Art of Chill.
That's on my list too.
Is it really? It is a set collection game where each of us play a painter, where we're collecting the correct colors and the correct type of brush to make, maybe it's the happy trees or the mystic mountain, or different thing. The majestic mountain. What else is there? The white fluffy clouds.
Happy little trees.
Happy little trees. I mean, it's all things that we recognize, and every once in a while, you roll a die, and if you roll Bob Ross, then you got to read one of his sayings, and then something will happen. Sometimes it's a benefit to you, sometimes it slows you down, but you are scoring points for the person to paint that particular image. And so once the whole painting is complete, that's discarded, and you get a new painting out.
I'll point out that in the scoring points, it's chill points.
Oh, that's right. They have chill points.
So the whole idea is to chill out and relax. Yeah. The whole game of this is to paint and relax while you're painting.
That's right.
Bob Ross. All right. My next one up is Betrayal, House on the Hill.
Oh, I have that too.
Imagine that. All right. So this is a multiplayer game. You're exploring a creepy old house to try to figure out what generic cult activity is going on there. And then midway through the game, what seems like a cooperative game, one of the players will flip and become a betrayer. That's the betrayal at the house on the hill. And then all the players are then against this one other player who's playing the bad guy or the cult leader. Or whatever it might happen to be for that scenario. And it's a tile laying game and a card reading game. Lots of cards, lots of things to read, little items and totems and spells and things like that. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, one thing that I like about this game is that, you know how there are dungeon crawlers and you're trying to discover things. Well, you're crawling through this scary house, and it's a great discovery game as you lay each tile. what am I going to see there? What's the bad thing that's going to happen? And you really don't know if it's going to be the betrayer or everyone else who wins. And I do love, there was a way that we found how to play it with two people. So you have a neutral character, and then when the betrayer is discovered, one person will become that betrayer, and the other person will take on the other two characters. So you're still battling all the way to the end. So it works out pretty well.
The best thing about that game is that there are secret doors,
Oh, yeah.
sometimes with a slide down to the basement.
Mm-hmm.
So how cool is that?
Yeah, that is very cool. The one thing I don't like about it is the components are a little iffy, the clips that go onto the player board. So there are apps you can get to keep track of your wisdom or your strength or your speed. Or what is it? Not wisdom. I think it's sanity and sanity.
Sanity, of course.
But I don't know. It's okay. I've kind of like separated out. These are the clips that work and these are the clips that don't work. And so we've been okay.
Yeah, if the clip slips, you might accidentally think you've gone insane when you haven't.
Right. But some people are already insane, so that's what works. Okay, the next game that I have is a newer game for me, and it is Broken and Beautiful. So this is a game where, oh, is it Kitsuchi? Kitsuji?
I think you said that right. Kitsuji.
I think it's Kitsuji, where they believe that just because something is broken doesn't mean it's trash. And it actually can become more valuable due to the care and attention that you give to this broken item to repair it. And they use gold in Japan to do this.
Gold lacquer.
Gold lacquer. And so what you're doing is you're collecting different pieces of pottery, and then it's a drafting game, or it's a, well, I guess it's a drafting game. You take a card, and then you could choose to take gold instead, because if you have all this broken pottery, the broken stuff isn't worth anything. It becomes more valuable if you can repair it with the gold. So it's a timing situation. Like, do I want to take the chance that it's going to be broken, but then I might be able to fix it and it'll be worth more points? I mean, it's just when we've played this game several times, and it's you can never tell who's going to win. It's just always very close.
Yeah, and it's another game that's just thematically satisfying, very beautiful to look at.
Yeah.
All right, next one up on my list is a simple game, Blockus. Right, so this is a basic family game of shapes, and you lay your little plastic shapes down on the game board, and there's rules for how to lay them down and how to not lay them down. And you try to be the person who lays the most pieces down on the board and doesn't get stuck, because you will eventually run out of room.
Yeah.
Blockus. And there is a two-player version where you play two colors at once.
Right. You play, so it's like each color's got a different starting segment, and so you play opposite corners. And so that works out pretty well for us. Okay, my next one is my number one. What about you?
My next one will be my number one.
Okay, why don't you tell us your number one this time?
Okay, it might be your number one.
It
too.
might be. It very well could be.
I can't see her list from where I'm at, so I don't know.
Okay.
But my number one B game is Beer and Bread.
Beer and Bread.
Beer and Bread. So with Beer and Bread, it's a strictly two-player game. You play two different villages on either side of a river, and it's sort of a friendly competition to see who can make the most and the best beer and the most and the best bread. And there are complicated ways of collecting cards to make the beer and the bread. And the cards have multiple uses. So if you're not going to use it to bake the bread, you can use it to tuck under your side of the board to give you special abilities and points at the end of the game. Say, I'm not going to use this to bake some bread. I'm going to use it to have an extra storage space for more yeast or something like that. And it's very fun to make beer and bread. That's my number one.
Yeah, I love this game. It goes in rounds. So one round you're going to be deck drafting, where you choose a card and pass the rest, and then your opponent will be choosing at the same time passing you. You'll play the card, then you pick up the cards, and then you choose the next card. And then you can always choose, do I take the resources it says, Or do I choose to tuck it under the board, like Wendy said? If I choose it as resources, on the second round, I'll pick up all the resource cards and draw enough cards to go up to 5. And then those are now the cards that I play with on the second round. So I may be taking it as resources, knowing that there is a certain recipe for a beer or bread that I am trying to make, and I need to have that available the second time. So a lot of fun. The resources are limited. In some cases, you may run out of hops or wheat. It just depends.
Or you may run out of room in your silo.
Yeah, you have a limited amount of storage spaces, and there are cards that'll give you extra storage. But I mean, the whole game is just so much fun.
The other thing I like, it plays over a certain number of rounds, and some of the rounds are fruitful years, and other rounds are dry years or lean years. And so the rules are a little bit different depending on which kind of round it is. So it offers some variability to the game, so not every round is exactly the same. And you've got to kind of plan for the dry year coming up, and then plan for the next fruitful year after that. Think ahead a little bit.
Yeah. And also, one thing that I love in this mechanic is you're not going for the most points, because you won't necessarily win. You have to total up the points in your beer that you made and the bread that you made, and whichever is the lower of those two will be your score. So it's just, you have to just keep track. Where am I? What do I need to do? I mean, just keep it as even as you can. And there are cards that will give you extra points based on at the end of the game. If you do this, then you might have 2 extra coins to put to either type. So
yeah, so if
really
you
cool.
if you want heavy beer, so I really want beer. Well, guess what? All your beer doesn't count at the end of the game.
Right. You'll need to look at your bread then if you only have beer.
Yeah.
So, all right. So those are the letter B games. So please let us know, what do you like? Is there something that we should be trying? All right. And, I know that there are thousands of games that are out there that come out every year. And so, again, this is just a subset of games that just meant something to us. So, until next time, I'm the Elusive Bigfoot.
And I'm Onezie.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.